Hi everyone, I welcome you all into this session number 2 of Boomi training. So in the last session, we spoke about, what is integration, right? Why integration is needed to a little extent, and what are the different ways to achieve integration, right? So can anybody tell me what is integration?
Collaboration.
Two or more systems.
This is the process of making two or more applications, two or more disparate applications to communicate with each other, or you can say it is a process of collaboration on different applications, right? So why do we need integration? Why do we need integration?
For applications.
Come again?
Connect applications.
Okay. Can I say for connected experience? Yes. I mean, see, of course, integration is required to connect, but why do we need that connectivity? Because we want faster order fulfillment. We want to avoid redundant work, isn't it? Yesterday, when I was giving an example of creating a customer in the Salesforce as well as in the ERP, wasn't I trying to avoid the redundant work, right? The same work which I'm doing in one system, I do not want to do in other system. It helps in avoiding data inconsistency, because if I will do something manually in one system and again manually in another system, it might happen that I end up creating some inconsistency among different systems. For example, Salesforce is one of my systems, and let's say Oracle ERP. Can anybody tell me any ERP from Oracle?
SAP.
ERP, SAP is a different company. From Oracle, there is a ERP called as Oracle Fusion, right? Oracle people also call it as Oracle Fusion applications, right? So now if I'm creating a, let's say, customer here in Infosys Limited, it might happen that when I do it manually, I might create like this. So the intent is same, right? But there is data inconsistency. Your system will not consider these two as exactly same records. Since you did some manual intervention, you will end up creating this kind of data which will be inconsistent across different systems, and that will eventually not give you a complete insights about your business. Okay, you will get distorted insight, you will not get the correct insight. So even to get the good insight, to get the 360-degree view of the business, the integration is very, very important. If you want to know what is happening across the board, right? If you want to know 360-degree details about a customer, right? How that customer is engaged with you at different levels, that integration among the different applications is very, very important, right? For example, Reliance is doing business in different sectors, right? And now they want a visibility. Okay, this person with this Aadhaar card number, how this person is related to Reliance, right? So if they want a complete view, maybe that person might purchase jewelry from Reliance, that person might purchase apparels from Reliance. If they want a 360-degree and see, how much business this customer is bringing to us, then they definitely need integration among disparate applications. Otherwise, it is not possible to get that view, right? And nowadays, giving a personalized experience to the customer is very, very important, right? So when you log in into, let's say, Flipkart or Amazon, you get some personalized recommendations, right? Maybe if you're looking for a headphones, you will get all the recommendations related to headphones. If you're looking for maybe a laptop, you will get recommendations related to laptop. So that customized experience is very, very important. And in order to do all those things, there has to be connectivity among different applications, which makes integration all the more important. So what are the different ways to achieve integration? One is we do it manually. right?
Manually and automated.
Right, we can do manually where we may have some data entry kind of thing, or export or import of files, right? But this is a time taking process, prone to errors, not a scalable process, difficult to maintain over a period of time. That's where we look for a automated way, right? So whenever we want some kind of an automation, we have to adopt some kind of tools and technologies, isn't it? Whenever we are looking for some automation, we need to adopt some kind of tools and technologies. So one way in automated is P2p integration. What is P2p integration?
Point-to-point
Nice.
integration.
Point-to-point integration. So in this point-to-point integration, what happens is the source application and target application, right? The source application can be anything, target application can be anything. They will not use any kind of an intermediator. Instead of doing that, they will extend the code. For example, here we will end up writing some custom code, and even at the source application end, we might end up writing some custom code, and these applications communicate with each other directly. So now I would not say that we cannot use point-to-point integration. If you are okay with all the drawbacks that point-to-point integration brings in, and if you're still okay with to live with those drawbacks, you can go ahead and continue using point-to-point integration. But this point-to-point integration is not a scalable solution, right? It is not a scalable solution. It is difficult to maintain over a period of time. And anything which is difficult to maintain over a period of time is something. Yes, of course. As you rightly mentioned, this is tightly coupled solution. Yes. What is the meaning of tight coupling?
No intermediate.
Come again?
Systems are completely dependent on each other.
On each other without any intermediate.
Yes, when two applications or systems are completely dependent on each other, then it is called as tightly coupled solution. In tightly coupled architecture, if one system goes down or if one system upgrades, then it has a cascading impact on other system also, right? So if you want to move away from this kind of architecture, then other way to do this is loosely coupled integration. Loosely coupled integration. What is the meaning of loosely coupled?
Dependency is minimal.
Very nice. Dependency among the systems which are being integrated is minimal. So when you are answering something, right? I mean, right now you're saying dependency is minimal. This is fine for now, but please make a habit of answering complete thing. I mean, I'll tell you what, from my experiences, I interview a lot of people. Many of them know the answer, but they go very casual about it, right? And don't take me wrong, I will keep on giving these lectures because I have a lot of people who are 2 years, 3 years experience also in this batch. So we kind of go casual with our answers, okay? We get that Pawan Kalyan feeling that, you know, we will answer 2 words and person will understand. A person won't understand. Person would feel, the interviewer would feel that you're casual about your approach. So please try to define it using the proper words, regardless of the fact that even you're able to communicate the same message in 2 words, but please define it properly. Okay, that is very, very important. And that is one area where people feel their interview went well, but they are not selected. All right. So in order to achieve loosely coupled integration, right? In order to achieve loosely coupled integration, we need an intermediate. Yes, in order to achieve loosely coupled integration, we need an intermediator. That intermediator is nothing but an integration layer. Why would an organization invest in an integration layer? This integration layer will take all the overhead facilitating communication among different applications. Okay, so it's very simple. Let's take the example of Prime Minister of our country, right? Mr. Narendra Modi. He's visiting different countries, right? So he might go to Europe, he might go to US, different countries for different purposes, right? So now when he go to different countries, he cannot afford to learn those foreign languages and then plan his travel, right? Isn't it? If he will do that, this whole process will slow down, right? Maybe during a span of 5 years, he might only be able to go to 2, 3 countries and communicate with the folks, right? So instead of doing that, in order to fasten the process, what he would do, he would appoint an intermediator, right? What is the job of an intermediator? The job of an intermediator is to communicate the things to the target system, to the target person, which may be the delegates of the country where Modi ji is visiting, right? And this is speeding up the process, and that is what exactly what we are doing as an integration layer. Also, we do not want to pass on a overhead of conversion of the data format, conversion of the protocols into the source application. We would say to the source application, boss, you give me the format which is comfortable to you. You don't worry about the integration. It is an integration layer who would take care of all the overhead, who would facilitate that whatever data format you give in, whatever the protocol you use in, I will pull the data in that format and I will do all the necessary transformations, validations, enrichments, and pass on the data to the target application, right? So, investment on integration layer for a company might look an overhead initially, but over a period of time, it gives a lot of flexibility to the organization, wherein they can add, upgrade any number of applications without having a cascading impact on the other applications, right? Because when we were working on point-to-point integrations, if there was impact on one application, that same impact was getting reflected in the peer applications also, right? So the integration layer will take the overhead of facilitating communication. So when we say take overhead, what actually it consists of? So what are the qualities of an integration layer, right? So what are the main attributes of an integration layer? You have to tell me. If I have to appoint an intermediator, what is the topmost attribute you will look for in the intermediator? Okay, let's say I have to communicate in Telugu to someone. I don't know Telugu. I will look for an intermediator. What capabilities I should look for in that intermediator?
He should know Telugu.
So, or in other words, can I say
Language translation.
very nice? In other words, can I say that person whom I will appoint should have a capability of translating the messages from English to Telugu or Hindi to Telugu, whatever it is. And I would try to validate whatever is transforming into, is it really making the same meaning what I'm telling, right? Because a person might be transforming, but that the transformation might be resulting into something different than what I was trying to communicate. Then that can lead to miscommunication, right? Isn't it? So the whole point is the main attribute which I would look for is the translation capability. That whether a person whom I'm appointing is a good translator or not, right? So same thing happens over here, right? Yesterday, some people were asking me, okay, A versus B. And the reason why I didn't tell you A versus B directly, because I want you to understand that what are the attributes you have to, consider while doing this kind of evaluation. So the first important thing is transformation capabilities. Okay, you can say translation or transformation. Now, transformation itself can be of two types. One is transformation of the data format, right? Transformation of the data format, and then there will be translation or transformation at the protocols, right? So what happens is, let's say there is a source application. Maybe there is some source application and there is a target application. My job is to enable the integration between these two. What this source application is saying is, boss, I will push the data into FTP. I will push source application is saying I will push the data into FTP server. What is FTP?
File transfer protocol.
Very nice. FTP is a file transfer protocol, and there like HTTP is another protocol, right? Do we use HTTP day in and out?
Yes.
Right. All the browsing which we are doing over the internet is happening on HTTP. Yes. FTP is another protocol. Can anybody tell me any other protocol apart from HTTP and FTP?
Yes. HTTPS.
HTTPS is like brother and sister.
NFTs.
Yes. Like there are a lot of protocols. Good to know about some of these, right? SMTP is another protocol, right? SOAP is another protocol. So likewise, there are many protocols, right? You should have idea about these, but HTTP and FTP are widely used protocols, right? So now what a source application is saying is, I will push the data into FTP server. What kind of data is the source application pushing? Order data, right? They are pushing the order data, and eventually this data needs to go to the target application, right? Now, one thing is target application would write some code to read the data from the order.xml. See, target application job is to, let's say, deliver the order items. As a part of order, what would be there? Some items will be ordered, right? When you place an order, how your order looks like. So you should know these things, guys, and whatever is happening around you, you need to observe, especially the people who are starting their career fresh. So there is an order. So whenever you place an order, so there will be two parts to it: order header and order line items, right? So if you see when your invoice, when you place an order, let's say on any e-commerce website, and that product is delivered to you, there will be an invoice that will have two sections: header and line items. What will header consist of?
Order ID.
Okay, very nice. Order ID. Order ID or order number is one and the same thing, right? Some people might represent it as an order ID and some people might represent it as an order number. Why do we need this ID or number?
Unique number.
Very nice. This is a unique identifier for for our order. And at any given time, if I want to know the details about my order, this unique number would be really helpful, right? What else is there?
Name of the customer.
Location.
Name of what?
Name of the customer.
Very nice. We will have name of the customer. Very nice. What else? Billing address.
Billing address.
Maybe shipping address. How billing address and shipping address are different?
Billing address.
One is for the credit cards.
Order will be shipped to you.
Shipping
These are two
address means
different
where
things.
the order needs to
One is
go.
used for credit card, one is used for to ship the product.
Yes. Shipping address means where you would want the product to be delivered.
Delivery.
Right? Right. For example, you place an order for 10 laptops. I, as a company, place an order for 10 laptops to Dell Technologies. So they will ask me, okay, boss, tell me the billing address and shipping address. Shipping address is the place where they would send those 10 laptops. Billing address is where they will send the invoice of it, right? So I may have a corporate office. So all my operations, I might be running from the corporate office, all my, corporate level operations, whereas I might have different other offices where actual work is done, right? So I might not want the company to deliver laptops to my corporate office because corporate office is just for, governance and execution of high level things, whereas the ground level work might be done in the different development centers. So I might ask shipping address to be equivalent to my development center address, and billing address can be my corporate office address. In some cases, these can be same also, but good to know. Good that you people are aware about it. What other attributes can be there?
Phone number.
Very nice. Phone number, email ID, yeah.
Email address.
Payment mode, whether the payment was made via credit card or
Yes.
or few details like this, right? So this is your order level details, and eventually you will have line item details. What will be there in the line items?
Material number.
Very nice. Maybe can I say item number?
Yeah,
Item.
item number. Item number, material number.
Item number, some description. Some description will be there.
Yes.
Before we go on to the price, will the quantity be there?
Yes, price also.
Price also.
Item name,
Okay, description is as good as
weight.
okay. Maybe some weight, depends on the kind of item. Likewise, there can be some more details also, right? So this will be basically your order. Suppose this order.xml is having this file. What does XML stand for?
Extended markup language.
It is extensible markup language. Yes.
Sorry, extensible markup.
That's fine. Extensible markup language. So let's say this whole data, whatever we are talking about, is put into XML format, placed into FTP server. Now target application needs it because they eventually want to deliver this order items, right? Maybe target application is a logistics company. So their job is to deliver the items. Can you give me an example of a logistic company? What is logistic company?
Which delivers the item.
A company who is responsible for delivering the items, right?
Delivery.
They will maintain the different warehouses. They will ship your product from one place to another, right? Okay. FedEx is one example. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. DHL. Likewise, there are many other examples, right? So these are the companies who would basically do the shipping, right? So for example, if Flipkart is there, Flipkart might have partnership with n number of logistics partners, right? Every big company will have every big manufacturing company, they will typically have partnership with different logistics partners because they may themselves not have the resources to set up their own logistics, which might be very expensive, also difficult to maintain. And since for many of the businesses the delivery might need to happen globally, right? So they may have different logistics partner depending on the different geographies also, right? So now what I'm saying is this order, let's say, is coming from US, and for US, let's say I have a partnership with FedEx. Now FedEx needs to pull these details, right? So now do you think FedEx will write a code to pull your file? They might not be okay to do that, right? Because if they start doing that every single day, they will keep on writing the code, right? Until and unless you're a very, very big partner, they will not do that, right? Until and unless you're giving them a very, very big revenue, they are not going to do that. What they would say? They would say, boss, you push things towards me. I'm not going to come and pull the data from you. You go come and push the things towards me. So one thing is, and source application is not ready. Source application is saying I can place the data into the FTP server only. I cannot go and call, maybe this FedEx is exposing some API. What is API?
Application
Programming.
To integrate, to connect backend to the front end.
So API full form is application programming interface.
Programming.
Okay, see, a lot of people get confused about it. For the timing, just assume it is a function. That's all. What is a function? What is function?
To perform any operation.
It is a block of code which can take some inputs, perform some function, some logic, and return the output. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm saying, see, a lot of people get confused about API, and the reason why I want to introduce these terminologies now, so that you become familiar with these terminologies, right? We will cover these in very much detail, but I want you to bombard with these terminologies so that you do not find it like buzzwords. These all keywords should not be buzzwords for you anymore. You should remember it. You should be able to put it into words. So I'm saying, think of API like a function, right? But a special type of function, a function which is over the web, a function which is accessible over the web. So when you call a function, do you care about the body of the function? Do you need to write the body of the function?
No.
No, right? What do you care about?
Input and output.
You care about the name of the function. You care about the input parameters, data type of parameters, order of the parameters, and probably return type of the function, right? And of course, if I have to import any library to access that function, these are the 4 or 5 things you care of, but you never care about the body, right? Do you care about the logic, what is written inside?
No.
No, right? You basically just give the input and you get the output. You go to ATM, right? Do you care internally what is happening? I mean, when you swipe your card, you say cash withdrawal 1,000 rupees. So you get 1,000 rupees outside, but do you really care what exactly is happening inside to get 1,000 money out of the machine which you're using? You really don't care because you're using a functionality. So for using a functionality, you're giving some input and you're getting some output. We do not care what is happening behind the scene. That is the beauty of a function. That is the beauty of an API, that you give some input, it will do the necessary task and will give you output. But one thing which is very, very important while working on APIs is that you give the right input in the right format, isn't it? Yes.
Yes.
If it is asked, please enter the amount you want to withdraw, but you are typing A, B, C, D, will it return the output?
No.
No, right? So giving the right input is very, very important. So now we were talking about this use case, right? The source application is pushing the file order.xml, target application needs it. Now in this case, either source, if it is a point-to-point integration, what would happen? Either source application needs to compromise and write a code to call the FedEx API, or else if I have an influence on FedEx, I will ask FedEx to go and come the read files from the FTP server. But some system, either source system or the target system, needs to do some additional work. Is that correct? See, this target application job is to deliver the orders, accept the details of the orders and deliver the orders. Their job is not to read the files. Similarly, source application job is to accept the orders and generate an XML and place it in FTP server. Their job is to not to talk with the logistics partner. But now eventually if integration won't be there, then will the order get delivered? No, right? Even though I receive the order won't get delivered if there is no integration. Now in order to do this, one thing is I can go for point-to-point integration, which is very time consuming, which may not be a good idea, because think of a scenario, guys. If I have, let's say, 50 different logistics partner to integrate with, and as my business expands, I might add up more logistics partner. Do you think it will be a big overhead for a source application, right? It would
Yes,
be.
yes.
And that is where integration layer would come in, right? Now, what would integration layer do over here?
It will create a process to send one request to all the logistic companies, whatever the target applications.
Very nice. So as an integration layer, what I will do is it will identify the it will identify the touch points. Now, what is touch points? Touch points, endpoints, connections, end systems. People use different terminologies, and why I'm writing all these terminologies is you should not get confused about it, right? It will identify all the touch points. So the job of integration layer is to pull the order.xml from a specified directory in the FTP server, do all the necessary conversion, transformation, validations, enrichment, and pass it into the target application by calling an API which is exposed by FedEx. This is the overall job of an integration layer. Yes. Now, as you rightly mentioned that we might create a process out of it. Now, in different tools, there might be different terminologies. Some people will say, I will create a flow. Some people will say, I will create a process. Or in all generic sense, people would say, I will create an interface. So when you're working in integration world, right, one terminology which you will hear very, very frequently is interface. What is the meaning of interface?
That's bridge between two applications.
Very nice. Interface is a bridge, or if you see a literally meaning, a boundary layer that enables connectivity between two discrete systems. For example, if you're using a laptop, do you have an interface to plug in the pen drive? Yes or no?
Yes.
Pen drive is a different hardware, laptop is a different hardware, but can you put pen drive where you want, or there is a specific interface where you insert the pen drive and the data from the pen drive can be read, or you can write the data into pen drive? Yes, there is a specific interface, right? So what is the job of that interface? To make two different hardwares interact with each other. Yes or no? So laptop is, of course, a hardware at the end of the day, right? Of course, it is using software also. So it is making two different applications or systems to talk to each other. So now what I'm saying is, when we are building any solution as an integration guy, in most of the cases, what we are doing at the end of the day is nothing but we are building interfaces, because these are enabling the connectivity. So when you're working in integration world, regardless of the tool you work in, you will come across, okay, please develop 5 interfaces. Or they will ask you, okay, in order to integrate these two applications, how many interfaces would you want to build, right? Okay, tell me the estimations of all these interfaces, or categorize these interfaces into the low complexity, medium complexity, high complexity. But this interface terminology you will hear very frequently, right? This is a generic terminology. So now here, when I have to do this integration, I have to develop one interface. Now, before I start developing interface, so a lot of people, what do they do wrong is they jump onto the development straight away. Okay. And that is not the right approach. First of all, please spend some quality time in understanding the problem statement. Think about what can go right and what can go wrong, right? Think about all the possibilities, right? For example, if let's say I read the file and something breaks in between, what do I do with that file? Or while I'm reading the file, do I need to archive the file? What is the meaning of archival?
Copying.
It's kind of creating a copy and putting into our records, right? If at all we need it for a later purpose, right?
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
you are creating a kind of a backup of those files for a later, if you need those files for some troubleshooting purpose, you will have some copy. So these all things must click your mind, and it will definitely click if you will think of the solution in a generic sense. Do not become too much technical, right? Just think in the generic sense. When I'm trying to push this data, or if in day-to-day life, if I have to build this kind of solution, what are the things I need to take care of, right? Things will start falling in place. So now what I was saying is, as an integration layer, I have to identify the touch points. So what are my touch points in this case?
Source and target.
Source application, target.
Okay, source and target is fine, but what I, as an integration guy, I see what happens is you don't need to care who is your source or who is your target. I mean, yes, so a lot of people ask me, like, will you show me an integration? Like somebody was asking me, will you show me an integration with HCM? See, do not worry whether it is a HCM or a ERP or a data warehouse, doesn't matter. Understand, for you, the connection point is maybe API, FTP, SFTP, database, queues. So for you, that is how you should look at it. Because whatever is the system behind the scene doesn't matter for you, right? Because you are not going to learn that system. So as an integration guy, it is good to know about little bit about ERP, Salesforce, I mean the CRM and all. But eventually, you need to also understand that what is the mechanism of achieving the integration, right? So in this case, the mechanism of achieving the integration is, of course, it is a source application, but for me, it is FTP. And here, maybe a REST API, right? Now, what I'm trying to tell you is, let's say instead of FedEx, okay, maybe this FedEx is like logistics partner. Let's say this integration, the source application, I have to do it instead of sending this data to my logistics partner, I have to send this data to ERP. Okay, and ERP is also exposing an API. Now you tell me, how would it matter for an integration guy whether that data is going to ERP or FedEx, as long as I know how to make a API call? Does it matter?
No.
It doesn't matter, right? See, as long as you need to, okay, let me give you another example. As long as you know how to operate the ATM, does it really matter to you whether you are withdrawing money from State Bank of India or ICICI Bank or HDFC Bank?
No.
You know how to use the ATM. So does it matter? The only thing which might change is your workflow might change a little, right? If you go to ICICI Bank, they might have a little different workflow than what HDFC Bank might have, than what State Bank of India might have, but still you are able to manage it. Do you need any training? For the very first time when you might have used ATM, you might have struggled, right? But now when you go to different banks, do you need any kind of training? Do you need any kind of preparation?
No.
Does it matter? So that is the point I was trying to convey. As an integration guy, what we should focus on is that, do I know how to consume the API? If I know how to consume the API, it won't matter whether you are integrating with ERP, or I would say in fact, any SaaS application. Yesterday, I was in a meeting with one of the architects. Even we were discussing the same point. That doesn't matter. It may be any SaaS application. What is SaaS?
Service as a,
Software as a service, right? So
Software as a service.
so what has happened is with this cloud transformation, right? Many of the applications have been moved onto the cloud, and when they have been moved on the cloud, the mechanism of integrating with them is APIs, and that is where all around we are hearing about APIs. APIs is not a new concept. APIs, at least the time since I started my career, the APIs have been there. The only reason why they are getting all the more attention is because now every company is pushing their assets to the cloud, and over the cloud, the healthiest way or the easiest way to establish the connectivity is via APIs. But as an integration guy, if I know how to consume the API, then it doesn't matter for me whether it is a ERP API or a logistic partner API or a CRM API. For me, it is more or less same. Yes. All right. So in this case, I will identify the touch points. So source application, target application is fine. Okay. But for me, I would say FTP and REST. These are my touch points. So when you're working on Boomi, identifying the touch points become all the more important. Okay, why it becomes all the more important? The connection, the licensing in Boomi. The licensing in Boomi is highly impacted basis the number of
Connections.
touch points, or we would say connections we need to make. So in this case, if I need to achieve this integration, if I'm a Boomi developer and if I have to give an estimate, right, to my CIO, he's asking, or maybe CIO or the competency leader, okay, that how many connection licenses do we need? How many connection licenses do we need? I would say two. Now here also something might go wrong. 2 might look correct, but it is not. It is partially correct. Okay. Why it is partially correct? So please pay attention. This is very important. I was trying to develop an integration. Okay, started identifying the touch points, right? So I identified there are 2 touch points. I am saying, okay, I need 2 connection licenses. This is partially correct statement because when you are giving the estimation, you have to think holistically. Okay, what do I mean holistically? So when you are thinking or estimating about something, think from the development to the production, right? I mean, you have to think that when I start building that thing to the time when I productionize it. What is the meaning of productionizing something?
Using in real time.
Using it in real time, making it live for the real users, right? Pushing, or I mean, development means we might be building it when we roll out the feature to our actual customers, actual users, then we call it as productionized, right? So now when I'm giving an estimation, I have to not only think about production, but I have to think about the phases prior to that. Yes or no? So in all true sense, when you work on for any company or enterprise, at least you will have 3 environments: development, QA, and production. You may have more environments also, but typically it is recommended to have at least 3 environments, right? Why do we need 3 environments?
development
Testing
for development, testing, and live. I mean, for the real-time users.
Right. See, something which is live, you cannot touch that, right? Because see, you will keep on getting the new enhancements, you will keep on getting the new requirements. So something which is live, which is being used by my actual users, I would not want to touch that. So what we do typically in an IT industry is, as a part of, regardless of the technology and tool you're working on, we try to maintain different environments, right? So development environment, this will be primarily used by developer community, right? So whatever development they want to do some kind of testing, this will be used by the developer community. QA environment is for the quality assurance team, right? Where they will try to do all the testing.
Yes.
And the same environment might be used by, or same environment might be used for UAT also. What is UAT? User
acceptance
acceptance
testing.
testing. So how this QA testing and user acceptance testing are different?
Yeah, UAT can be done by some of the pilot users in real
Very
time.
nice. Very nice. So UAT is meant for the business users, right? Who are, or you can say pilot users, maybe some people from the company itself, or I will identify some specific users and they will do one round of testing. So this is more from the business perspective. This is more from the overall functionality perspective, whereas quality assurance testing might have different angles to it. It might be, of course, from the functionality perspective, there might be some technical attributes, performance testing, security testing. So there are a lot of other branches within that which might be taken care. Some companies will have 4 environments. They will have a separate dedicated UAT environment. They do not want to have the same environment for QA and UAT, right? That might be also possible.
Yeah, it's staging, for example, staging. Yeah.
Yeah, some people might call it a staging, right? Or pre-prod. Depends. So the naming conventions might change, right? Doesn't matter, but it is good or important to know. See, those people who have been working in the industry, for them, they know these things day in and out. But those people who are new to things, at least when I was new, I was assumed to be knowing this. Nobody knows things. I mean, people assume. My manager assumed that I know what is development QA staging. That assumption is where we go wrong and people start feeling uncomfortable about things. So there is development, QA, UAT, production. Now, when my boss is asking me how many connection licenses do I need, instead of straight away answering him, please ask a question that how many environments are we planning to maintain? So my boss is saying we are planning to maintain 4 environments. Then what should be my answer? How many connection licenses would I need now?
8.
I would need 8 connection licenses. Why 8?
Each 2.
FTP and STP
Touch
each
points.
connection.
So we need
Two for
8
development.
connections.
Another 2 for QA, another 2 for staging, and another 2 for prod.
Production.
Or else I would say I would need 8 connection licenses, out of which 2 are for prod. Yes, 2 are for prod and 6 are for
Non-prod.
non-prod. Very nice. 6 are for non-prod, because this is how I'll classify. Now my boss would say, okay, we don't need these many environments. This is a high cost for us. Let's cut down. Those all things we can take care, but you have to think a little bit holistically, which is very, very important. Don't jump onto the solution right after listening the question. Okay, give it a thought. All right, so we identified the touch points. What is the next thing?
Endpoint.
Okay, see this touch point, endpoint, connection, and system, these all refer to the same. Okay, these are the different words people use in the industry. That's why I wrote it multiple times.
Create a flow.
Okay.
For the
Establishing the connection to the source.
Okay, you identified the touch points. You can check the connectivity, right? Okay, done. You can always check the connectivity, which is an important aspect. You should not wait for a connectivity check at the end. And this is where people go wrong. And when you're working as an integration guy, your proactiveness is 50% and your technical knowledge is 50%. Okay, because whenever we work as an intermediator, our communication is very, very vital. So a lot of people, what they would do is they will start developing and they will check the connectivity at the end. And that is where things go wrong. Check the connectivity first, because if something is not working, highlight it to the respective teams so that they can take their own time and resolve it. And in the meantime, you can complete your rest of the stuff, right? So checking the connectivity, as someone rightly mentioned, is a very, very important point. And if everything is working, fine. If it is not working, raise the alarm to the right stakeholders, right? Okay, this is done. Then you should understand some functionality also, right? What am I trying to achieve, right? Like maybe somebody told, maybe the business flow. You need to understand the complete business flow, maybe kind of a flow diagram where you know, okay, I need to pull the data. So I need to pull the data from FTP. Now, when I say FTP, do you need this host and all, I believe you will need to know some directory structure and all, right? Where the file would be placed. You would need a sample file. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
So you need to demand for the reason why I'm highlighting all these things, guys, because I do not want this to be only theoretical. When you work in real time, what are the things you need to ask for, right? This is very, very important. You need to know the sample file, and sometimes you might also demand for schema file. What is the meaning of schema file?
Structure of
Structure of the file.
Schema means structure. Okay, the
Structure.
literal meaning is structure, because see, sample file may have only some attributes, isn't it? Sample file may only sometimes have some attributes. We cannot take sample file as a source of truth. We should always look for schema file, which tells us what can be the complete set of fields that can come in an order. What are the n number of fields that can be there in the header? What can be the n number of fields which can be there in the line item? So you must always demand for a schema file, or if the team is not having that schema file, you can collaborate and come up with a schema file which is in agreement with both the parties, right? Okay, so I told pull the data from the FTP. Do you need any other information from the FTP perspective? Of course, the host, port, username, password, all that information will be also required. Without that, you cannot check the connectivity, right?
credentials.
Yeah, username, password is nothing but credentials. Then you might want to ask them, do I need to do any kind of validation? Do I need to validate the data?
Yes. Yes, we need to validate the data.
So this we may or we may not. So this is a question you should ask. Are you expecting me to do any validation? For example, or some validations might be important for you. Some have, from the technical perspective, some validations business might want to keep you. For example, if there is a file, there is an order file which does not have any line item, please do not process that file. Yes, this can be a business validation. If ever you get a file, order.xml, which does not have any line item, then please do not process that line item. Yes, or please discard that file. Or you may have a requirement, okay, if you're getting a file which has order data, and if there are any line items where quantity is 0, please filter out those line items and process the remaining item. Does it make sense to send a line item detail to a logistic partner where the quantity is 0? No, right?
No.
No, it doesn't make sense. So likewise, there can be different types of validations which I need to put in place. The point I'm trying to say, now you understand. So what is the first capability here we are trying to see from the integration layer? Ability to connect with different applications. Yes. Is this one capability you would like to see in the integration layer? That whether it has the ability to connect with the different applications?
Yes.
Yes.
Right? And what kind of applications? It should have the capability to connect with both legacy and modern applications. Because if something can only connect with modern applications, then what would I do with my legacy applications? Yes, it is not easy for a business to replace their legacy applications, right? Legacy carries a lot of value. There is a lot of value for the business. They cannot go and replace that legacy over a day or over a few days. They might not be okay to do that. They are okay to modernize, but not at the cost of replacing legacy. And this happens with many customers. So we will look for solution which gives us the flavor of modern as well as legacy. So here, this is one attribute you should evaluate. So when you are doing, let's say, Dell Boomi versus MuleSoft, so you should see whether these tools have the ability to connect with legacy as well as modern application. Yes. If there is an integration offering which cannot allow you to connect with mainframes and you are heavily invested on mainframes, that product might be doing wonders in the market. Will you go for that product?
No.
No.
We won't go, right? Now I am a company who only uses cloud application. Then will I prefer to go for that product? I might go. So that is what I was saying yesterday. It all depends on your appetite, right? You have to study your IT ecosystem. What are the different types of touch points I have? Okay. see, if you are not going to add any legacy product, right? But you have to understand the existing IT infrastructure that, okay, these are the 100 different applications I have. What are the technology stack of those applications, and the integration layer I'm choosing, is it compatible with these different technology stacks or not? Yes. Then I need to do the validations, right? So the next thing is whether integration layer provides me validation capabilities or not. That can be another thing, right? Then what else? You may have to define some sometimes some complex logic. So here we are reading this orders data. Where is that orders data? And eventually we need to call an API. So we have the support for APIs is very, very important. Yes, because these days all the integrations are facilitated with the APIs, right? So do we have the support for APIs? When I say support for APIs means, can I consume or expose different types of APIs? Is another thing I have to look for. Then what else?
Transformation.
Very nice. Transformation, right? Now here you see there are two types of transformations which you're doing. Can anybody call that out? What are the two different transform? So let's say this API understands the data in JSON format. So what are the two different transformations you might need to do? What is JSON, by the way?
Format.
XML flat file.
So JSON is a data format. Okay. It is a mechanism to represent the data. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. JavaScript Object Notation. So XML, JSON, the good thing about these data formats is these are human readable as well as machine readable. These are human readable as well as machine readable, and these are software and platform neutral. So when we want to integrate among different applications, we prefer to look for a format which is compatible for different applications running under different platforms. And you will see as a part of the any integrations we develop, in majority of the cases, we will use either XML format, JSON format, or probably flat file format, right? So the data formats which are typically used are, what are the different data formats we use as a part of integration?
XML, JSON, flat file.
XML, JSON,
Yes,
flat file.
Flat file.
Okay, this flat file again can be of two types. One will be like CSV kind of files, and there are positioned files. Okay, we'll talk about that. But, and that is where I told a good knowledge of XML and JSON will be enough, right? That was the reason I told you that. Okay, that's fine. Let's move on. So now we need transformation. What are the two different types of transformations we need over here?
protocol transformation.
Very nice. We call it as protocol. Actually, instead of calling protocol transformation, we typically call it as protocol translation.
Translation.
Yes, and that is nothing but here FTP to HTTP. Okay,
HTTPS.
HTTP or HTTPS, right? Depends. And here it is FTP. What other transformation you need?
Data format.
So it is XML to JSON, right? Now, what other capabilities do you need? Now, this API might be a secured API. Yes, it might be a secured API. So now, what are the latest security realms which are being used on the APIs? There might be a basic authentication, but these days people are using more OAuth. What is OAuth? What does OAuth stand for? Open authorization, right? So another thing I would like to see is in an integration layer that whether it has the advanced and the legacy security policies available, whether it supports the different security policies, right? Maybe this is another feature I would want to check. Yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
So likewise, there can be so validation is one. Another capability sometimes I would want to check is orchestration. What is orchestration? You will hear this terminology very,
Converting
very
into
frequently.
discrete applications.
Come again?
Converting into discrete applications.
No, it's not converting.
Combining.
Combining.
Combining discrete set of services into single unit. Because when you're working in integration, it may not always happen that you get the data from one system and you pass it on to the other system. It might also happen you get some data from one system. Using the data, you might need to call many other systems, then enrich the information together and pass it on to the target system. Yes. For example, when I'm getting this order.xml, let's say in this order.xml, only customer ID is there. Okay, customer ID is there, but customer name is not there. But the FedEx API is looking for customer name also. Then what I might need to do is, as a part of the business flow which I design, I might need to pull the customer name from some other source, from some other data source, right? And pull that information, and then I will kind of enrich that information together and send it to the target system, right? Yes. So another thing which you might need to do is enrichment. What is enrichment?
Adding
something.
and deletions to the
Process of
data.
adding or removing some elements from the original information. Yes. What else? You might need to do some reporting also. For example, you are integrating with n number of applications, and at the end of the day, you want to know, okay, how many transactions have failed or how many transactions were successful, right? You might want to generate a report, right? So before customer comes to you and tell that boss, or they escalate, boss, my order is not processed. I created the request 1 week back, but still my order is not processed. Instead of doing that passive approach, you would want to proactively run a report every single day or maybe every hour to see which all transactions are failing, and you would want to investigate what was the reason of the failure, right? And would want to take some right actions on top of it, right? If you want to give a good customer experience, then you have to proactively do it, right? If you do not want a good customer experience, then you can wait for the customers to come to you. So, but at the end of the day, we would need some kind of reporting capabilities also. So majority of the integration tools we use, they have some inbuilt reporting capabilities also, which will let you know which will give you the insights about the transactions, about overall health of the system, right? Then you would also want to see can the integration layer handle the heavy loads or not? Yes. Would you want to check this or not? So for example, you are working, like somebody was asking me about ETL, right? ETL is typically for heavy loads when we want to move the data from one system to another. So we use ETLs, and when we talk about the ETL, generally it is a data which is at rest, right? There can be two types of data movement. One is the data which is live, and another is the data which is at rest. I can give you one classic example also. So when you do IMPS, what happens when you do IMPS?
Amount will be transferred instantly.
The amount will be transferred instantly. So that means you generated some data, and the data is immediate, because see, when you're transferring the money, is the cash flowing from one bank to another?
Yes.
I mean, so the bank is not taking the money, right? There is no executive who's taking the money. It is all the numbers which is playing around, right? And of course, they may have some mechanisms to transfer the cash also, which might happen on a daily basis or something. But that is some kind of agreement which banks have among themselves, right? But for us, it is nothing but numbers at the end of the day, right? Think from the technical perspective.
Yes.
If you're building an integration interface to facilitate this integration, are you just not transferring the data? And maybe at the end of the day, they will reconcile the data and will tell, okay, bank, okay, please transfer this much money, okay? Or please send this much money to me. Isn't it? So now what I'm trying to say is, there are two ways. One is data at rest and one is data which is live. So when you're doing IEMPS, the data which is live is being integrated. Are you integrating between two banks or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Now, when you do NEFT, what is the user experience? Does the recipient receive the money immediately?
No.
No.
No. Why no?
Because it will be processed only.
Fixed date.
Because it will be processed after stipulated interval of time,
Yeah.
right? RBI. Okay, if there is anyone who doesn't know Indian culture, I'm sorry, but I have no exposure to any other country. I am pure Desi guy. So I will take majority of the examples from India only. But if you're not able to follow, you can let me know. I can try to take more generic examples. So there is a concept of NEFT where what happens is RBI has set up some guidelines, boss, that there will be some batches which will run after stipulated interval of times, and all the payments which are pending will be settled at those time itself. So maybe there are 6 or 7 batches or maybe 10 or 12 batches which runs every day, and they will keep on settling all your NEFT transactions. So there, when you're doing NEFT, are you integrating the data at rest or the data which is live?
At rest.
The data which is at rest, right?
Yes.
So in order to give rest to the data, you need some persistent store,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
If you want
Yes.
to rest, do you need a restroom? I need a restroom, right? So that
Yes.
restroom can be a database, it can be a file system. See, when you start relating things with your real-time examples, things becomes very easy. So if I want to rest, I need a restroom. Similarly, when you want to put the data at rest, you need some database and all, and eventually you will pull the data from that restroom, which is nothing but database, and you will transfer it to the target. And when something is at rest, you would see huge volume or not. You are not processing anything live, you are letting everything to rest. So and when your batch will run, the volume would be more, right, than something which is at live, isn't it?
Yes.
So when the volume is high, so you have to understand that whether for my business, will I have scenarios that will involve the integration of the heavy data or not, right? So if I need the heavy data, so I need to check with the vendor. Okay, boss, there will be scenarios when I have to process 10 gigabits of data. Is your system capable of doing that? Do you have any capabilities which will help me to do transfer 10 gigabytes? Okay, if yes, please show me a POC. Right? So now can the integration transfer heavy loads or not, right? So these are the different parameters on which you will do that evaluation, right? Even when you want to do, let's say, Dell Boomi versus MuleSoft, this is how you have to do it. Okay, I have talked about 6-7 important parameters. Likewise, there can be many. Okay, but generally the decision will be taken on these. Okay, whether it supports real-time integrations or not. Okay, or real-time I will talk about these things: real-time integrations and batch-based integrations are supported or not. Okay, do they have a support for event-based integrations or not? Nowadays, people are talking a lot about event-based integrations. Okay, which event-based integrations which generally use some kind of queue or topic. So do they have a support for a queue or topic or not, right? Do they have some monitoring platform or not, right? So these are the different things which we would try to check and see whether that product is the right product for me or not, right? But if MuleSoft is the right product for my company, it is not necessary it would be right for every company, right? And on the top of all these things, what is the most important factor?
Cost.
What is that?
Cost.
Very nice. Who answered that?
It's me, Harita.
Nice. It is licensing cost. Forget about all these things, right? These all things will go in one way, and another important thing is licensing cost, right? So executives will definitely look into this also. They will see a licensing cost and they would see return on investment, right? Like if I'm spending, let's say, $20,000 on the licensing, how much it will help me in generating the revenue, right? Because if I'm living with point-to-point integrations, and even if I'm moving to the integration layer and it is not adding any value for my business, just because integration layer will give me that agility, I might not want to do that, because eventually I need funds, right? I need to justify to the different stakeholders why I'm investing $20,000 on an integration layer. Because when you invest on the integration layer, it is not only about procuring the licenses, right? It is also about managing and maintaining it. So whenever we do any investment, right, there are two aspects of it. This is going little different, but these all are important to know. One is capex and one is opex. What is that? Capex is like that capability building cost, right? Okay, you are developing some solution, you develop it. And another important thing which is constant throughout, which is year by year, is operational cost, right? So sometimes we say, right, I mean, buying something is easy, but maintaining it is difficult, right? I mean, buying a AC is easy. I mean, nowadays it is not difficult for anyone, but maybe when I was a child, people used to say, buying a AC is very easy, right? But buying an elephant is easy, but maintaining an elephant is tough, right? So that kind of analysis we need to do, right? And this is very, very important factor, that capex versus opex, especially for the executives. Yeah, sorry, someone was asking a question. So what we started, we wanted to do this integration. So I will identify touch points. We will see all the workflow. We will understand the business flow. We will understand the design. We will think about the error handling. We will think about the security. We will think about the volume of the data, right? And then if you will capture all these requirements, if you understand all those things, then you go for development, right? So whenever you are starting with any integration interface, right? Another thing you need to understand is always your things will start with requirement gathering, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. You will do some discovery, because I have seen some people completing the course, everything is fine. They are even working in the industry. I will ask them what are the different phases. They will say, okay, I will start with the development. So that is not the right thing, guys. Okay, that is where you're going wrong. So we have to start with the requirement gathering. And some people will say, I will gather the requirement, but they will only focus on the functional requirements, which is again a very important or very common mistake we do. Functional requirement is only 22. The weightage of, when you're gathering the requirement, the weightage of functional requirement is at most 50%. But what is another thing which is very, very important is
System changes.
non-functional requirements. What did you say? Sorry.
System requirements, basically system changes. That's what I said.
Yeah. So this non-functional requirements, people don't pay attention to this. Okay, architects and all would pay, but nowadays, when you get engaged into a project, you may not have an architect. You might be doing all the job, right? Right? You go to cafe coffee day, that person is only preparing your order. That person is only doing billing for you. That person is only cleaning the table also sometimes. I'm telling about Indian experience. Okay. So you have to be an all-rounder, right? So now, even when you will work in Boomi, you may not have a scenario where you have a specified architect. You might be only dealing with the business and gathering the requirements. Okay. And it depends on the kind of customer you're engaged with, right? Some people will have the separate BAs, architects, and developer will be restricted only to the development. But small and medium-sized customers may not afford to have such setup. They may have individual contributors doing everything. So always think about non-functional requirements. Categorize functional and non-functional requirements properly. Get a sign-off. Never start with the development without a sign-off. Okay. I mean, sometimes we might do, but generally it is not recommended, right? For example, if you do not know whether you will get 100 transactions per day or 1 million transactions per day. If you do not know that, can you design your solution properly?
No.
Not able to.
Even if you design some solution, you might need to redesign everything. So for example, you designed a solution which is good for 100 transactions per day, but now business is saying, I'm going to give you 1 million transactions per day. Now your system, even though your integration is right, but it would crash because you did not capture this part. So this was an important aspect. Yes. So capturing the volume is very, very important, right? Capturing the details about the security is very, very important, right? Maybe when I say security, it might happen, you might need to get some IP whitelisting done, right? You might need some special credentials, or you might need some special certificates to be added. So you must ask all these things, what kind of security we have, right? What are the other things? You must also ask a peak volume. One is like, when I talk about the volume, there can be two things. One is average and another is peak. Yes, average is 100 transactions per day, but what can be the peak? Maybe let's say 10,000 transactions per second. People use a terminology called as TPS. What is TPS? Transactions per second. Okay. See, nobody will tell you all these things. You will learn all these things with experience. Even now you may not remember it, but it is my duty to, make you aware about all these terminologies so that you don't find yourself, uninformed or unaware when people use this. What are the other aspects we have to consider in the non-functional requirements? Anything? And it has nothing to do with the integration, guys. If you're working in any other tool also, you need to do all this exercise. Volume is one, security is one. Again, in security, we can break down into different things, right? What else? Whether you have any PII data or not. What is PII data?
Personal identity information.
Personal identifiable information, right? So because if you have some PII data, so what is a PII data for us? Maybe our Aadhaar card number. Yes. Is it not a PII data? Will you be comfortable sharing your Aadhaar card number with everyone? Like, for example, some medical history of some individual, right? So this all is kind of PII datable or some sensitive data. I mean, of course, medical history is not PII data, but it is a sensitive data. So you might need to understand the sensitivity of that. Okay. And you might need to take a call whether any encryption is required or decryption is required. Right? If it is a scheduled process, whether it is a scheduled process or you want real-time integration. What is real-time and what is scheduled? That IMPS is real-time. Yes.
Yes.
And NEFT is a scheduled one.
Yes.
Yes. Real-time means when you fire something, when the data is generated, it is passed on to the respective systems right at the same moment. When you see the live match, it is real time. There also integration is happening, right? The match is happening maybe in South Africa and you're able to see it live. So which means the moment that particular data is getting generated, it is getting integrated at the very same time. Right? Scheduled means you're putting something at rest and then doing it. So you might need to understand whether it will be a scheduled integration or real-time integration, right? And if it is a scheduled one, if it is a scheduled, you need to know the frequency, right, of the scheduler. So these all details you need to capture, because sometimes people will say, I want the scheduler to run on the second working day of the month. So sometimes schedulers frequency will be very easy to configure. Now, when we get these kind of requirements, second working day of a month, okay, it might be sometimes tricky. So sooner you identify all these details, easier for you to plan. Does that make sense? After requirement gathering, what do? We do design.
Yes.
Yes. Then somewhere you will do develop plus unit test, which together might be called as build. Then you will do testing where you may have QA plus UAT. And then finally we'll go to product. So we understood the requirement. We will try to categorize it into the functional and non-functional. We will identify the touch points. We will see which all capabilities of the integration platform we would need. Okay, functional is of course very, very important. Without function, understanding functionality and only knowing non-functional will not be important. I mean, both go hand in hand, right? Even understanding this is important. Then you implement it, you build it, you test it, and eventually once you feel everything is good, you will hand it over to QA, right? Okay, we haven't started speaking about Boomi. Don't worry. I mean, once you understand the overall process now, then we will start using it. We will try to break down each use case we do like this so that it becomes easy. And that is where, you know, you will feel that you have worked in real time. You will not feel this, I know, happy world, hello world kind of thing. Okay, there is a lot of information over here in this, right? You might need to join those dots and you might want to, you know, revisit this. We'll continue from here tomorrow. So we started talking about the fact that we need an integration layer and what are the capabilities expected from the integration layer, right? So now within the integration layer also there are different offerings, right? So because integration layer is something which has no existence on its own, it always depends on the peer applications. If so, we will try to classify this on basis of the fact where peer applications are hosted. So we'll try to classify this in tomorrow's session, and from there I will give you an overview of the Boomi platform. How does it look like, right? So by tomorrow you will have access to the platform. You can start doing some hands-on. Maybe by end of this week you will be able to build some small processes